Good afternoon. The government has set out its plan to help the UK cut its carbon emissions to net zero. Boris Johnson set out a raft of new measures, including grants for people looking to replace gas boilers with low carbon heat pumps. But environmental campaign groups say we need to go much further if we're to be seen as world leaders ahead of the COP26 summit this month. Well, in a moment, your questions to our property expert about how to make your homes greener. But first, our political correspondent, Romilly Weeks, has this report.
With his flagship climate summit now just days away, Boris Johnson needs to show Britain is leading the way, with the Prime Minister insisting saving the planet needn't cost the earth.
People know that we have the technological solutions to these problems and they want to go green. And they know that we'll be able one day to bring down the prices of green technology, EVs and heat pumps and solar panels, in a way that we so rapidly made microwaves and mobile phones affordable.
The UK has set ambitious targets to cut its carbon emissions. A key part will be persuading all of us to ditch our gas boilers in favour of more eco-friendly heat pumps. So today the government is announcing grants of £5,000 for households to install the pumps, which would halve the average £10,000 cost. But the total £450 million subsidy would be enough to install heat pumps in just 30,000 homes. And there are around 23 million gas boilers in the UK. Labour believe the government needs to be far more ambitious.
We're in the middle of an energy price crisis and the climate crisis, and I'm afraid what the government is putting forward is way short of what is required. We needed a proper home insulation and retrofit plan. We needed a proper heat pumps plan, and we don't have either. Once again with this government, they're very, very big on promises and they're incredibly weak on delivery.
With the world experiencing ever more painful consequences of global warming, the government has also announced its overarching strategy for reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050, promising more investment in nuclear power and electric cars.
Hosting COP26 gives the UK a huge opportunity to showcase our world-leading climate credentials and set an example, Mr. Speaker, to other countries to raise their own ambitions too.
The Prime Minister has said COP26 needs to be a turning point for the world, but he's trying to tread a careful line in creating a greener future without penalising households, and it's far from clear whether that is going to be enough. Romilly Weeks, ITV News.
OK, so let's take a closer look at how heat pumps work. Now, they are made up of a unit outside your home. They use electricity to take heat from the air. Then that gets heated up into gas, similar to the type found in fridges, which is then used to send warm air or water around your central heating system. To get hot water, you need an electrically powered storage tank. The pumps don't heat water to as high a temperature as, say, a gas boiler, and that means some tanks need to be heated up. Pretty complicated there. Well, Canley Barker is a property expert, and he's been showing families how they can reduce their carbon footprints and bills on ITV's Save Money, My Beautiful Green Home. And I'm very pleased he joins me now. Canley, thanks so much for joining us this lunchtime. So let's begin. Heat pumps, are they the answer? We've had lots and lots of questions from people asking all sorts of things, but we know they're not cheap for a start, despite those government grants.
Yeah.
But a lot of people asking, just how easy are they to install into people's homes? And in particular, what if you live in a flat?
That's part of the big problem. At the moment, we do not have enough registered installers who know how to install heat pumps. The other issue is installing a heat pump on its own isn't the answer. It's the beginning of the answer. It's the beginning of the journey. But, for example, you need to have a well-insulated home. If they work best on underfloor heating systems as opposed to radiators. So if you have radiators whilst installing a heat pump, you'll probably also need to install more radiators around your home.
Yeah, well, that was going to be a question, actually, because if you have an older property, for example, and you do have to replace those radiators, that's going to end up costing people even more money in the long run.
Correct. And even worse than that, if you haven't insulated your home properly, it can actually even cost you more money because the amount of energy that you're going to use, the electricity that you'll use to heat the home up properly, bear in mind they're powered by electricity, and electricity is 4 times or something, around 4 times more expensive per kilowatt hour than gas. So if you install an air source heat pump in a property that isn't insulated correctly, doesn't have enough radiators or an underfloor heating system, it could actually cost you more money.
And, you can see what the government is trying to achieve here. We are looking for a greener future, aren't we, for the UK to get away from those fossil fuels. But, I've been hearing from a lot of landlords who also be saying that they are just too expensive to install. Why would I when I can just get a gas boiler for £1,000 or £2,000? And that's a big problem as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the big problem is all the rhetoric around net zero carbon, going green. So what the government effectively are doing today is equating buying an air source heat pump to going green. That's kind of like, imagine you want to lose weight and just saying, I'm going to lose weight by just not eating donuts, but then you go and eat crisps and chocolates and everything else. And the point is a really simple one. It needs a multi-vein strategy in order, and that's based on people's houses and as a nation as well. That's what we need, and that's not quite what the government have done today.
They are saying, though, it is, and as you say, part of this bigger strategy, isn't it? But, let's take it down to individual households. If you can't go the heat pump way, which we know is very expensive, as we keep on saying, but it might have longer term benefits, how do you go about saving on bills? And if you want to be green and more energy efficient, what can people start doing practically to their homes?
Okay, and the start of the answer to that question is to say that what we need to do is we need to shift our thinking on what sustainability means in energy in our homes. At the moment, it's all about how it's produced. Is it expensive? Is it from a renewable source? What we really need to be thinking about is retaining that energy. If you retain energy, then you don't need additional energy to heat your home. So what can people do? Well, really simply, they just need to think about conserving the energy, the heat that's in their home. So that is insulating your loft. That is simple things. For example, going to a DIY store and buying insulation for your windows and making sure your windows
at 10:30 and 11:30 tonight
blocking
on
up
the
your,
BBC News channel for an in-depth look at all of the front pages.
And anything that will allow your house to retain its energy, is something that works really well, and that's the first stage in being sustainable. Because actually, if you think about it, if you kept all of the energy in your home, then you wouldn't need any additional energy or very little. You could heat it with a hairdryer. It wouldn't make any difference and that's what we need to do. We need to be thinking about how can we retain our energy so that we don't need to keep continuously pump energy into our homes to heat.
Listen, Cunley Barker, lots of good advice. So one final question before you go. Have you got a heat pump? Would you get one?
I will get a heat pump, but the first thing I need to do is I've got an underfloor heating system. I've insulated the house to within an inch of its life. There are 2 external walls I need to insulate. And once I've done that, I can get a heat pump.
All right, good luck with that, Cunley. Thank you very much. Next is Lunchtime, the latest on Billy Hood, the British man sentenced to 25 years in jail in Dubai after CBD oil was found in his belongings. Well, his family are appealing against the sentence, claiming he was forced to confess more serious drug crimes. Today, a court in Dubai ruled his next appearance would be at the end of November. I'm joined now by Billy's friend, Alfie Kane. Alfie, thanks for talking to us again on Lunchtime News. First of all, have you spoken to Billy recently? How's he doing?
I haven't spoken to him a couple of days ago. He's trying his God almighty best to hold it together and stay positive. We haven't heard anything from him as of today, but what we have received today is an automated response from the legal team in Dubai, saying that they've now pushed the verdict back to the 30th of November, so 6 weeks. 6 weeks he'll get the verdict, which I actually think is an extremely long time for someone who's already been in there for 10 months. We also were told that the FCDO was supposed to be there today, and again haven't really seemed to have done anything.
So you say you got this automated response, which seems to be incredibly impersonal considering the circumstances of Billy's case. The fact that he's now appearing before the court again in November, is the family more hopeful now that there could be some movement on his case by then?
I mean, we hope so. I mean, all, like we've been doing for the last 10 months, all we can do is hope, you know, and try and stay positive. Yes, I mean, Rada Sterling and Detained in Dubai have been absolutely, you know, have been the only shining light in this tunnel that has been dark for the last 10 months. Has been amazing, and is going to absolutely try her best to speed the process up. So yeah, again, yeah, we hope so.
Detained in Dubai, of course, a campaign group who are helping with the case. We know that Billy's in Dubai's Al Awir prison, which is notorious with having pretty awful conditions. What has he told you about it?
When he was transferred to the prison, he didn't have a mattress for 8 days. He was sleeping on the floor. But then, as soon as we started to get the media coverage, I wouldn't say things. I don't know how to word it. Have things improved? I don't think so. But maybe they've got better. You know, he's now with English people, but he's still, you know, the sound in his voice isn't appealing at all. And you know, it's still very worrying and scary. Just if he ever, you know, I don't know what the question. If he ever does get out, what's his mental health going to be like? Is he going to suffer from PTSD? I think there's, you know, there's something that I'd actually like to say. I actually urge Sheikh Mohammed to pull the Legal Affairs Department of Dubai together and to please look into the case, because it's shambolic what is going on.
Okay,
as
Alfie,
of now. And,
listen, Alfie, we appreciate you talking to us once again, and we will obviously keep in touch and keep on top of this case. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, children who claimed they were being abused by the late Labour peer, Lord Janner, were let down by institutional failings, according to a report. The independent inquiry into child sexual abuse says that police were reluctant to believe the abusers because they'd been in care. Well, Lord Janner died in 2015 and his family have always denied the claims against him. Our UK editor, Paul Brand, joins me now. So, Paul, what's the inquiry reporting today? It's pretty damning, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's complicated as well, Lucrezia. So the first thing to say is that it's not Lord Janner who stands accused in this report, but those who are supposed to have been investigating him thoroughly. His guilt or his innocence was never proven. He passed away before any trial took place. The question this report had tried to answer was, were the accusations of child abuse against him properly investigated? And the resounding answer from the report is no, not by Leicestershire Police, who we're told failed to pass witness statements to the Crown Prosecution Service. A couple of those witness statements were even found years later in a locked drawer, and not by Leicestershire County Council, who we're told had a sorry record of failures on this issue. And those failures, the report concludes, are down to one issue really, namely the background of the children who are making these accusations.
It was clear that all these organisations, the police, the county council, really didn't consider these witnesses to be credible because they were children in care. And so, despite numerous allegations being made, despite evidence gathering in 2 of those police investigations, it just didn't go anywhere.
Well, Leicestershire Police and also Leicestershire County Council have accepted the report's findings, but Lord Janner's family have always insisted that he was innocent, and today his son Daniel Janner put out a statement saying, "Our late father's innocence is unchallenged in this report. It offers no proof whatsoever of guilt. He was himself the victim of institutional failings because he was denied the ability in court, while of sound mind, prior to his dementia, to defend himself and challenge the false allegations." Lord Janner could never prove his innocence, and his accusers will never be able to prove his guilt.
OK, Paul, thank you. Normal business has resumed in the House of Commons today following a day of poignant tribute to Sir David Amess. Flowers left in memory of the Conservative MP are being moved to his constituency office from outside the church where he was stabbed to death. The man is still being questioned under the Terrorism Act. 2 adults and 2 children are in hospital after an explosion at a house in South Ayrshire. The blast, which happened yesterday evening, caused severe damage and could be heard for miles around. 3 other homes have been affected and several more evacuated. Police Scotland say inquiries are continuing into the cause. And Asda has launched a recruitment drive to find 15,000 people to help with the Christmas period. The supermarket says the temporary workers will be needed for a range of roles in stores, depots and delivery. The government is under pressure over the rollout of COVID booster jabs. Labour claimed in the Commons that it's stalled.
The booster programme is stalling, with charities describing it as a chaotic failure. Only around 13% of children have actually been vaccinated. His wall of defence is falling down at just the point that vaccination is waning.
Mr. Speaker, well, our vaccination programme has been one of the most successful in the world, and the right honourable gentleman may know that it's prevented 24 million infections, it's prevented some 230,000 people from being hospitalised, and 130,000 lives have been saved. I don't call that a failure, I call it a success.
Well, the Health Secretary confirmed today the National Booking Service would be opened up to all 12 to 15-year-olds to have their jabs in the vaccination centres to take advantage of the half-term break. I'm joined now by our resident Lunchtime News GP, Dr Sarah Jarvis. Dr Sarah, thanks so much for joining us again. We're hearing a lot about the vaccination programme, but we're also hearing about booster jabs and criticism that this rollout is being too slow, especially now when we're seeing daily infection rates, the highest that they've been in 3 months. What is the hold-up? What are you hearing?
Well, what I'm hearing from my patients is that they are getting their invitations from the NHS booking service, and apparently 1.8 million invitations are going to be sent out this week. Amanda Pritchard appeared before the Health and Social Care Select Committee. We've done 3.7 million booster and third vaccines for their very immunosuppressed in the last month. My bigger concerns are, firstly, that there does seem to be real confusion over people who are eligible for booster vaccines, because they're supposed to be assessed by their consultant to see whether they're eligible and when would be the best time to give them their booster. And that really has caused a lot of confusion. But my other concern is there does seem to be a bit of a feeling that it's all over and people are not queuing up for their boosters in the way that they were for the first vaccines.
Now, we just heard there that the vaccine programme was going to be opened up for those 12 to 15-year-olds during the half-term break. We were leading the way in terms of vaccine rollout for a very long time, weren't we? But we seem to be slowing down compared to other countries, certainly in Europe. And it is, in particular, we seem to be slowing down in getting those younger people vaccinated. So that is an area of focus now.
It is an area of focus, and of course we also really need everybody who is over 50 and has another thing, a condition that means they're eligible to come forward for their booster. You can't be invited till you're at least 6 months post your second dose of vaccine, and please, if you do get that invitation, do come forward, because about 30% of the most vulnerable, the over 80s, haven't had their second vaccine yet. But certainly for young people, although the risks of them becoming seriously unwell or dying are much smaller than they are for younger people, we've had evidence out just in the last day that the vaccine does reduce your risk of catching COVID and certainly of getting symptomatic COVID. So it may well mean that young people will have their school time disrupted much less, and we all want that.
Yeah, we don't want that. A final question, Dr Sarah. We've heard infection rates in the UK at their highest in 3 months. Why is that? Is it because other countries don't test as much as us? Or is it because we've opened up? Is it because of schools going back? What's the reasoning?
I think there are lots of factors. It may be that other countries aren't testing as much as us, but also if you go to other countries, I have several colleagues who are doctors in other countries. One who is in Portugal I was speaking to just last week. Everybody wears a face covering. Nobody would dream of doing anything without a face covering. Many countries in Europe have vaccine passports to get into cinemas, to theatres, to any venue, even into restaurants. We have very little of that, and I think that a lot of people believe it's all over. I was on the tube recently and I was horrified at how few people were wearing face coverings.
Yeah, Dr Sarah Jarvis, I have noticed that too. Thank you so much once again for joining us on Lunchtime. Thank you. The Duchess of Cambridge has given the keynote speech at an addiction awareness event. Kate has been a supporter of addiction charities for many years and was joined at the event in London by Anton Deck, who surprised her as she arrived at the London venue. The Duchess is a patron of the Forward Trust, who were launching their Taking Action on Addiction campaign. Well, aims to raise awareness of addiction and encourage more people affected by it to speak out. This week is Addiction Awareness Week, and in her speech, Kate warned that charities like the Forward Trust are needed more than ever, given the rise in addiction rates as a result of the pandemic. And that is it this lunchtime. Charlene is here with the evening news at 6:30. The news where you are follows the national weather. But from everyone on the Lunchtime team, bye-bye.